Thanks for joining us at XM.com. This is a Forex Preview video. The Reserve Bank of Australia meets early on Tuesday, and the consensus is that after a series of rate hikes, the central bank will hit the pause button at this meeting. I'm Christina Marujas. With me today is our lead investment analyst, Rafi Boyajian. A pause is the most likely outcome, Rafi, but what appears to concern markets the most is whether the RBA will resume its tightening bias later on. What do you think the central bank will signal at this meeting?
Well, Christina, that is right. So there is talk of a pause. In fact, the RBA has been talking about a pause for some time now, but they always ended up raising interest rates, ever since around about the autumn time, where speculation started to circulate about a potential pause. There was, in fact, those expectations did rise quite a bit for the February meeting, but then of course we did have a spike in Australian inflation at the end of last year. But now the picture does seem to be changing again. Inflation has fallen for the second straight month from highs above 8% to below 7%. So finally, CPI does appear to have peaked. And there's been some other weakness in the economy as well. The last PMIs were disappointing. Of course, there's concerns about the housing market as well. And in fact, this is one of the main concerns for the Reserve Bank of Australia, because Australian households are sensitive to rising borrowing costs. That does affect them quite a bit in terms of disposable incomes, in terms of their mortgage payments. So it is very possible that we will get a pause. That is the market consensus. And so we were heading for a pause. It's interesting to note that even before this banking crisis, and now that we've got this added uncertainty from the financial turmoil, it's very likely that the RBA will decide to hold rates at their April meeting.
And now let's look at the market reaction. The Aussie has had some turbulent, rough weeks lately. How do you think it could perform on the RBA decision this week?
Yeah, it's interesting looking at the Australian dollar because it hasn't really managed to capitalize on the US dollar's weakness since this banking crisis. We've seen other currencies recover quite substantially from their earlier lows from earlier in the year, such as the euro and the pound as well. But the more risk-sensitive currencies, such as the Australian dollar, they really struggle to really make a strong comeback against the greenback. So partly that is explained by the fact that we've had quite a bit of risk aversion from the concerns about the health of the banking sector. And even though this banking crisis doesn't really, it's not going to have a direct impact on the Australian economy, I think it just adds that extra layer of uncertainty as far as policymakers are concerned. So they've got an added incentive now to go on pause and stay there. But what happens from now on, that's going to come down to what kind of guidance we're going to get from the RBA on Tuesday, because at the last meeting in February, earlier in March, the RBA they kind of hinted for a pause, but at the same time they kept the door open to additional rate hikes, so they might pause and then raise rates again if needed. So are they going to do the same now? Are they going to maintain their tightening bias? Is it going to be a clear signal that there are more rate hikes to come? It's just that they don't need to raise interest rates at every meeting? Or are they going to say they may have to tighten a bit more, but we shall have to wait and see? Or are they going to say, this is it, we're done, we're not going to be raising rates any further? If we get the latter, then that would be really damaging for the Aussie, because the RBA will be one of the few exceptions that's going on pause this early. On the other hand, if we get, if we do get confirmation that we might get some additional tightening from the RBA, then I think the impact on the Aussie won't be quite so dramatic. And in fact, the Aussie might just simply continue consolidating against the dollar.
Rafi, thanks so much for joining me. The Reserve Bank of Australia meets on Tuesday. Thank you for watching this video here at xm.com.